Okay, welcome to ICT Integration Workshop 7. This time we're going to be looking at online testing and markbooks. So I've discussed about gamification before and learning as a form of testing and learning through competition. So this time we're actually going to look at online testing and how you can do it and how you can actually record your marks. The programs we're going to look at is Sporcle, Quizlet, Zoho Challenge, and then the marks book called LearningBoost. Okay, so gamification can drive learning. One example which I've seen before in classes not using ICT is I've got my students to do a mission to a new exoplanet. So I divided them into groups of 6, so I had 5 groups of 6 in the class, and each group was required to make a rocket or some model of a rocket to get to a new exoplanet. An exoplanet is a planet that exists outside of the solar system, so orbiting a different star. They also had to produce a colony base and also had to produce a rover. So you could actually differentiate for the different groups. So you could have a good kid, medium kids, and some struggling kids to do different jobs. But during the time they produced this assignment, they also had to get through 4 or 5 chapters of maths work, which is all related to the topic, and 2 chapters of science. The science we did was Earth and space, and we also looked at biology. Obviously, and plate tectonics. So going to a new planet is going to have different biology, different plate tectonics. So the students have to apply what they know to the new challenge. And as they completed tasks, they get points and finish their mission in a sense by doing all the work. And the students seem to enjoy it. Another example of this is Boozman Biology. So this is a YouTube channel. This guy is the Boozman guy. And he actually has a Year 11 biology class, and in the same way his students have to work their way through the different lessons, and he gives them points. The students, in order to get an A, you need 1,500 points. So rather than actually saying, oh, you need 10 out of 10 for everything, you need 1,500 points. So it means if you miss a task or you run out of stuff, well, you have to go back and get it or be satisfied with a B. Another example of gamification is I've got here countries of the world. This is a game. You have to identify where the countries are in the world. If I just give you an example, you have a minute to put in as many countries as you know. So here's my timer counting down. It says Australia. So if I click Russia, it takes off a second. If I click Australia, it gives me plus 3 seconds. And the idea is if I can get fast enough and complete them all, my time goes up. If I make lots of mistakes, so if my time goes down, and I'll actually zoom in and say, I'm sorry, you needed. The only way you can actually do well in the game is by actually know where all the countries are. Now I've played this quite a lot. I quite enjoy it. It gives me a bit of a pastime. Go through to see if I can put in all the different countries. And so I've actually learnt where all the countries are in the world just by playing this game. I've done a lot of other things online, so why wouldn't you put your tests online? For example, if you're doing a end of topic test like everyone else does to test their actual understanding of the assessment, some people actually decide to do a mid-topic test. Now this is a lot of extra work to have to write the test, do the test, mark it, give it back, respond to it. If you do it online, you can actually set up the test, get the students to do the test, and because it's sort of testing as a form of learning, you don't mind if they test it as many times as you want. And if with an automated marking system means they get instant feedback. Now, Professor John Hattie, with his meta-study that a lot of people refer to, has said that good pedagogy is the most important thing in education. It's more important than class sizes, ICT, resources, socioeconomic. It's the most important thing, and also more importantly, expert teachers are better than experienced teachers, which really makes sense. And he said that the most important thing a teacher can do is give good student feedback. So the first one I'm going to look at today is Sporcle. Now Sporcle is really a cross between games and tests. It's entertaining tests, I guess you'd say. And just for our example, we're going to look up World War II. So you can put in anything you want. There are literally hundreds of thousands of tests in here. You can see just from World War II there are 58. And I'm just going to look at 10 largest armed forces of World War II. So 5,500 people have tried this test. Let's go here some examples of total at their peak strength personnel. So I have 3 minutes to give this a go. So let's go. Well, obviously Germany. And all I need to do is put in, as soon as I put in the right thing, it will tell me Russia, which it corrects to USSR. Let's try Australia. Nothing for Australia. And I give up. So immediately it puts in the actual answers, and I can say, oh, okay, fair enough. And if I look at the statistics, I can see what ones everybody gets right just about and what ones no one gets right. Now there are so many tests in here that it's amazing. And I'd suggest have a go, have a look. You can join, you can sign in, or you can just use it, whatever. It's a fun thing for the students to do, and they can do it as many times as they want. The second test I'm going to show you is Quizlet. Now, Quizlet was designed by a college student in America, and it's just flashcards, really. Now you can make your own, or you can look up someone else's, and down the right hand side you can see browse by subject. There is hundreds of thousands of different subjects. There's been 13,000 new flashcard sets created just today, and there's 11 million sets in here. So if I put in something as simple as musical theory and music vocabularies, the first one I'm going to look at, there's got 44 terms. It's got both sides of my flashcard, and I can actually, so here's my flashcard here. You can print them off, or I can get it to do it as a test. Now the test, I've got it set to multiple choice. There's a couple of different options, and it's going to spit out 20 of the 44 available. And every time it spits it out, it will actually regenerate a different test. So here it's got very loud and then a strong sudden one to start with. If I go regenerate test, we can see it comes up with loud. So they're different questions. It also changes around the order of the answers as well. So you can have a whole class of students all doing this test at the same time, and yet every single student will have a different question, different set of questions. Zoho Challenge is the third one in the series, in our test series. Zoho makes lots of different programs. Zoho Challenge is their online testing. Now this is quite a lot different to Quizlet in that you actually have question banks which you add in the questions yourself. Now as far as pricing goes, it's free to use. However, if you want the extra features, you have to pay. I have here an example of some of my tests, and for my Year 9 chemistry revision, I've got 80 students have done this test. I only have 20 in the class, yet students are undertaking it more than one, over and over again. Now, this is an example of one student's work. I've changed the name so you can't see. Now there's 35 questions. You can see how many they've got correct, and you can see their results. Now I can also can see when they've undertaken it and how long they took to do it. So if I sit there with a parent and say, and my parent says, oh, my student got 85%. Well, normally that would be all the information you've got. However, I can say to the parent, well, your student started off and they've passed, but they've gone back and redone the test multiple times, to the point that they seem to have now quite a good grasp of the material. So it gives you a lot more depth of knowledge. It also gives the students feedback because it's instantly giving them the results. The other good thing about Quizlet Zoho Challenge as opposed to Quizlet is Zoho Challenge, you have within your bank of questions, you might have, I'm doing maths and exercise. I've got 4.1, 4.2 and 4.3. 4.3 might be the applied stuff. So I might have 3 questions in there and 20 questions in the first 2 sections. I can get the test program to say, well, rather than taking it randomly, I want 10 from the first 20 questions, 10 from the second 20 questions, and all 3 of the last questions, so that I can tailor it to the way I want the students to do. Okay, so we've seen with Zoho Challenge you can actually keep track of your students' work, but it's not actually a marks book or a grade book. And one of the arguments that I always hear is it better to have an electronic marks book or a paper marks book? With either of them, the most important thing is to keep a backup. I can back up my electronic marks book by putting on USB or email it to myself. If I have a paper one, a teacher's diary, please photocopy it. I don't know how many teachers I know who say, oh, you can't copy it, you're stuffed if you lose the electronic one. And then they've gone and lost their real teacher's mark book and they tear their hair out. They don't know what to do. If you photocopy it after you've done each set of work, you're not going to lose your stuff. I'm just going to go over some examples of Excel, numbers, and an online learning marks book program called LearningBoost. So this is Excel, and this is a copy of my one of my old marks books which I used in Excel, and I'm happy to give you guys a copy of this. The yellow is the stuff I write down of their names of the students and the names of the tasks. The blue is where I put in their marks. Now the first task is a practical, and I've said it's out of 20 and it's worth 10%. And if I put in some of their marks, so the first kid gets 17, you can see it automatically calculates their percentage for that task, and also gives you the percentage for the term. So the second student, third student, and the last student gets, well, I don't know, 10.2. So quite accurate, quite easy to use. Second task is an essay. Let's say this one's out of 17 and it's worth 13%. Now teachers quite often try and round the things off so that it's nice and easy. You can see here it doesn't matter. I can make it worth whatever I want. And again, the student gets 14, 12, 10, and the last student was away. So the question is, should the student be penalised? They got a D over to start off with. Should they actually end up with an E because they're away? Well, that's not really fair. So it's out of 13%. So if I go to the end, so just grab this, move to the end, the brown part, and say, okay, they missed out on 13%, which is 0.13. Oops, not that one. Here, 0.13. And that is actually saying, ignore this mark. And now they were on a D 10.2, which is exactly what you expect. So it's not giving them bonus for being away. It's not penalising them for being away. It just says don't count it. And there's lots of other ways of doing that. So this is one of the simple ones. I've got the blue is the term 1, the red is term 2. And this will give you your term 1, term 2 and semester grades. So I've now moved across to numbers. I use numbers because it runs on the iPad and on the Mac. It's exactly the same, so it's a bit easier for me to use it. And I have a different sheet for each assignment. This is the overall sheet and it tells me exactly what they're on at any time. So as soon as I put in their next assignment, I can put in the next mark. And if a student comes up to me in class and says, well, Mr. Johnson, what am I on right now? I can look up and say, oh, you're on 58% C. And then very next thing the students normally say to me is, how do I get that up to a B? Or how do I improve on my mark? And you can say, well, for your next assignment, you'll need to get at least a 70% or an 80% or so on. And so they can start studying. Or they might say, is there anything I can do for extra credit? Instantaneous telling of marks is such a benefit. If you put this up on the board or give them make it available to them so they can see where they are, preferably without seeing everyone else's, students will actually work a hell of a lot harder than if they just go, I think I'm doing all right for the term. If they go, I'm on 58% or 56%, well, I know I've got to work hard not to fail. Or if I'm on 84% and I need 85 for a B, I need to lift my game just a little bit to get up to an A. The third one we're going to go over is LearningBoost. Now, LearningBoost is a free online marks book, different to a learning platform. First of all, you log in, you set up your class. This is Year 9 Science. You add in your roster of all your different students. You then go to you can even put in your seating plan, so you can move your students around, put them in whatever seating order you want. Also, it's got your scheduling here, so this is when I've got my Year 9 Science. Whoops, hang on, I don't have them then. I've actually got them then, so just before lunch. So, and this can be set up for dual week. And you also have your gradebook. Very simple gradebook. You can adjust your grade scales. So I've put mine to here and not worry about anything less than a D. But you might change it to be 90 to 100 as an A, or you might put A plus, A minus, and so on. So you can set up however you want. It's a bit simplistic. It's not quite as complicated as I like, but it's very easy to use and a really good tool. And main thing is it's free. So our discussion board this week, I want you to, number one, give me an example when you've been driven to learn out of your own choice. So rather than doing it for work, you might have been researching or learning, maybe researching a family tree or so on. So explain to me that. Also, what did you think of the Country as the World Challenge? How did you go? How many attempts did you do before you got bored, and how far did you get? And thirdly, are you planning on using electronic gradebook or paper gradebook? I don't mind which, but explain to me why. And overall, national professional standards we've covered this week is know the students and how they learn as far as testing goes, how to set up an assessment, and how to engage with your colleagues, your parents, and the community, and that can be the student community as well.